This 17 News at Noon podcast is brought to you by Clinica Sierra Vista.
Welcome back to the 17 News at Noon podcast, where we share your news on your schedule.
Well, good day. I'm Elena Rusk. We're learning new heartbreaking details in the case of a deadly drunk driving crash on Highway 58 last month. Newly released court documents by 17 News show the victim's husband watched the whole thing happen and held his wife in his arms as she died. It happened the night of June 17th when CHP investigators say 27-year-old Ayanna Council of San Mateo made an unsafe turn that caused her vehicle to cross into the median into the eastbound lanes of Highway 58 near General Beale Road. The CHP says her vehicle hit an SUV driven by a 52-year-old woman from San Ramon. She has been identified as Michelle Rodriguez, and her husband says he was following her in his truck as they moved their belongings from to their new dream home in Las Vegas. Now, the court documents redacted his name, but detail that he rushed to his wife's upside-down truck and began CPR, pausing only to yell at witnesses to detain the other driver. He is quoted as saying, "I believe my wife took her last breath with me trying to save her." But Rodriguez declared dead at the scene. Counsel was determined to be under the influence and has pleaded not guilty to second-degree murder and other DUI-related offenses. She is being held without bail and is due in court September 7th. All right, well, the Bakersfield Police Department still investigating a deadly hit and run that happened in East Bakersfield. Officers arrived at Jefferson Park just after 6:45 a.m. yesterday and discovered the body of a 57-year-old woman they believe was homeless. Officers say a preliminary investigation showed the victim was sleeping on the grass in the middle of the park when a driver ran her over. That vehicle, described as a white mid-2000s Ford F-150 crew cab with a white male driver and a white female passenger. Anyone who recognizes the vehicle is asked to call the BPD at 327-7111. All right, now to the Washburn Fire, as a Yosemite National Park ecologist says a famed grove of giant sequoias have survived their first wildfire in more than a century because of preventative maintenance. Garrett Dickman says small intentionally lit fires over the past 50 years had essentially stopped the Washburn Fire in its tracks when it hit the Mariposa Grove, since the intentional burning helped remove undergrowth beneath the towering trees. The fire now covers about 5 square miles, with state officials saying that it's burned nearly 4,000 acres. After being reported as 22% contained yesterday, today that number was updated to just 17% containment. A fire official says they don't believe it will advance toward the world's largest trees, however.
Hello, this is Tim Callahan with Clinica Sierra Vista, and we're excited to unveil the Community Health Center of the Future, our comprehensive care center. It's located right across the street from Memorial Hospital. We have every service under one roof, from family medicine, OBGYN care, dental services for adults and children, behavioral health, and much more. So find your way to better care at Clinica Sierra Vista this year at our comprehensive care center. Visit our website, clinicasierravista.org, for the latest on this project. We'll see you soon.
Well, the Kern County Coroner's Office has released numbers on fentanyl deaths for the first half of 2022. Fatal overdoses here in Kern, attributed in whole or in part to the deadly synthetic opioid, have totaled 83. That puts us on track for 166 fentanyl deaths by year's end. Now, as heartbreaking as that number is, it would actually represent a substantial improvement from the previous year's total of 232 fentanyl deaths. It's hard to say what has slowed the pace of fentanyl's toll, but one possible answer, a billboard campaign undertaken by the Bakersfield Police Department and Kern Behavioral Health. Some feature opioid overdose antidote Narcan, a life-saving nasal spray, and some feature local people who lost their lives to fentanyl, a drug 50 times more potent than heroin. For more on the fentanyl pandemic, just visit our website, kget.com/fentanyl. All right, so in other news today, contract negotiations between Adventist Health Bakersfield and Anthem Blue Cross of California have stalled, potentially leaving thousands of Kern County patients to find a new health care provider. 17's Chris Burton joining us now in studio to break down what this means.
Well, hey, thanks for having me on the Noon, Elena. And yeah, I'll try not to get too much into the insurance weeds here. But Adventist President Daniel Wolcott called this one of the most aggressive stances Adventist has taken with an insurance provider in years. The current contract between Adventist and Anthem is set to expire next Monday.
Okay.
So speaking at a press conference this morning, Wolcott spotlighted a gap between Anthem's payout rates and those of other insurance companies, a gap that he calls unsustainable.
We actually can't divulge specific rates. However, the difference between Anthem and other payers is not simply 2 or 3%. It's significantly more than that.
Now, Anthem covers one of the largest sections of Adventist patient population, second only to Kaiser. Wolcott said Adventist will not ask those patients to leave the hospital or alter their care if the contract expires, but new patients covered by Anthem would likely not be able to seek care at Adventist after Monday's deadline. Now, we have reached out to an Anthem representative who says the company is currently working on a statement that they will provide to us. We'll have more on this at 17 News at 5.
Okay, Chris, thank you so much. All right, now to the coronavirus. As COVID hospitalizations on the U.S. are on the rise, doubling since May nationwide. According to an NBC News analysis, COVID-related hospitalizations are up in all but 4 states, with the biggest increase being reported in the South. That increase being driven by the Omicron subvariant BA.5, accounting for 65% of new cases last week, according to the CDC. The BA.4 subvariant accounting for over 16% during that same time frame. Both subvariants more transmissible and more immune evading than previous versions of Omicron. So while the vaccines don't offer protections against infection with these 2 variants, they can reduce the risk for severe complications, according to medical experts. And in health news, here's a way to beat the heat and get a sweet treat too. Houchin Community Blood Bank and Dewar's Ice Cream Parlor are once again teaming up for the Pint for a Pint blood drive. Those who donate a pint of blood then get a redeemable coupon for a pint of ice cream, of course. It's happening tomorrow at the Dewar's in downtown Bakersfield, and then again next Thursday at the Dewar's in the Northwest. Both events from 2 p.m. to 7 o'clock. For more information about donating blood and making an appointment at one of those trucks or at their blood bank centers, just go to our website, kget.com. All right, now to business news. There is more troubling economic news out of the interest rates that we've been watching. We're now reaching levels not seen since 1981. The Consumer Price Index has increased 9.1% in the last 12 months. Costs have surged, as you know, for energy, gas, food, rent, even dental care, according to the latest CPI released today by the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Removing volatile food and energy prices, the so-called core CPI still increased by 5.9% over the last year, 0.2 higher than expected. Energy prices alone have surged 41.6% in the last year, while food costs continue to climb, up 5.6%. President Biden reacted to this news, saying while inflation is unacceptably high, he says today's report is out of date because it does not include the drop in gas prices over the last 30 days.
The 17 News at Noon podcast is a production of KGET and Nexstar Media Group. For more on all of the headlines in today's show, head to kget.com.